Players I love, hate, and sleepers for week 2. Just a reminder to everybody. Hate doesn't mean you have to bench them. It just means their upside has been capped. I don't think they have the boom game that you might be expecting them to have. They're probably going to be below their average. But just a heads up, you don't have to sit all the hate guys. Just temper your expectations. All right? Let's get it started. Quarterbacks I love in week 2. Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels was an absolute beast on the ground. 16 carries for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. Stole one of them from Brian Robinson, in my opinion, but that's probably going to happen more than once this year. He was okay in the air, only throwing for 184 yards. I think that he ends up getting a passing touchdown in this game, but he'll probably end up getting with the rushing one too. He goes up against the New York Giants, who are absolute garbage, and I think he should be able to run and throw all over them. Believe it or not, Jared Goff. I know I thought he was going to play well last week, but I think he bounces back this week. He only had 217 yards and a touchdown, but one thing that he didn't do that I think he does this week is get that man Amon-Ra St. Brown involved. The same with Sam Laporta. There is no way that Amon-Ra St. Brown is not going to have a fantastic game going up against my Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I hope he doesn't have a good game, but I have a feeling that he does. The Lions versus the Buccaneers have the highest over-under on the week. You want quarterbacks with the high over-under because that means Vegas thinks a lot of points are going to be scored. Who scores those points? Mostly the quarterback. Fire up your Lions and your Buccaneers this week. Moving on to quarterbacks I hate. Quarterbacks I hate in week 2. Trevor Lawrence. He didn't play well last week, and I don't think he plays well this week. Going up against the Cleveland Browns, they're a fantastic defense. And if you're only throwing for 162 yards against the Miami Dolphins, you're probably not doing much better against the Cleveland Browns, who are going to pressure you all day long. And you're going to have to throw more than 2 touchdowns to return value. So I don't think that he does that this week, unfortunately. I'd bench him if I could. A lot of you may have seen Derek Carr play last week and thought, man, he looks fantastic. 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. I should definitely start him this week, right? Nah, I'm good. He goes up against the Dallas Cowboys, and unlike the Carolina Panthers, the Cowboys defense is fierce. I really don't want to play with that personally. Quarterback sleepers in week 2, I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield. No, not just because I'm a Bucs fan. He has a great matchup going up against the Detroit Lions. If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers want to win that game, they're going to have to score. And Baker's going to be up to the job. He's got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin firing on all cylinders, as well as Rachaad White in the backfield and that rookie Bucky Irving getting in the passing game. Baker threw for 289 yards and 4 touchdowns. Quarterback 2 on the week last week. You know he's going to get you at least 3 of them things. Fire up Baker Mayfield as a sleeper. This next one's gross because he's probably the worst quarterback in the league that has a role as a starter. Daniel Jones. He only ran for 15 yards last week, and I think that he's going to have to run for a lot more than that if he's going to keep his job. They had to come out and say that he was going to be the starter in week 2. That's a problem. He has to have a good game. They need to win it, but if he doesn't win it, he's got to at least look good. And throwing 2 picks against Minnesota and how ugly that looked, I think he's going to lean on his legs. This is a sleeper now that I'm not happy about, but if you're desperate, and I mean desperate, you might be able to start him. Ugh. Look at that run. He does not look like he'd be fast, but I guess he's kind of quick. Moving over to the wide receiver position. Wide receivers I love in week 2. Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice had 9 targets, 7 receptions, and over 100 yards last week. Now they get to go up against the Cincinnati Bengals, who have been chirping. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are trying to send a message. And with the second highest over-under this week, I'm trying to get involved in this game. You know you got to restart Rashee Rice, but now you know he's got upside. Next up, Malik Neighbors. Going up against the Washington Commanders. Fantastic matchup. The Commanders allowed the most fantasy points to the wide receiver position last week. Neighbors had an okay game, going 5 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown. But going up against this Commanders team, I think he's going to have a much better game. Plus, Daniel Jones needs to show out. They already talking about that man losing his job. I'm projecting a bounce back game for DJ Moore. He had 5 receptions for 36 yards last week, which was horrible. But Caleb Williams has got to bounce back. My man threw for less than 100 yards. That's wild. That won't happen again. But more importantly, Keenan Allen is banged up, and I don't think Rome Odunze is going to start. That means the targets are all going to DJ Moore. Yeah, that is the kind of situation I want DJ Moore in, where he's the clear number one guy to a quarterback that knows, I got to get it to my dude. I think DJ Moore bounces back this week against a Houston Texans team that allowed the 5th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position last week. Yeah, I think DJ Moore can have himself a game. Look at that boy. So happy. Skirt. Excuse me. Yoink. Bye. Toe taps. Wide receivers I hate this week. George Pickens. Pickens goes up against the Denver Broncos. And I don't know if y'all saw what happened to DK Metcalf last week, but he was like a vault, baby, locked down. Pat Surtain will be all over George Pickens this week. And with Justin Fields being most likely the quarterback, I am concerned. Pat Surtain ain't no joke. If you can do that to DK, you can do that to anybody. I'm trying to start Pickens this week if I don't have to. Another reason I don't want to start Pickens, the Steelers versus the Broncos has an over-under of 36.5 points. That's terrible. Yeah, I'm avoiding some players in this matchup. I do not see the upside. Speaking of DK Metcalf, he doesn't have Pat Surtain on him this week, so I do think that he's better than last week, but I don't see a boom game for him. They go up against the New England Patriots, which have the 2nd lowest over-under this week, which means Vegas doesn't think a lot of points are going to be scored, and he's going to have Christian Gonzalez on him, which is another tough matchup. I expect another ho-hum game from him. I'm not benching him. I have him in my league, but I might pick some other players with upside to get me that dub this week. I hope I'm wrong on this one. Love DK. Man, this guy's a monster. Maybe he could just break one. I'm trying to talk myself into it. And lastly, I hate Calvin Ridley. Going up against the New York Jets, I'm concerned about the Jets because he's going to have to see Sauce Gardner. More importantly, Will Levis is going to have to see Sauce Gardner. And I just don't think that they're going to have a good offense. The Jets need to prove something after getting embarrassed against the 49ers. It's the 5th lowest over-under at 41 points. So I don't think a lot of points are going to be scored. He's startable, but his upside's definitely capped. I think Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be a sleeper this week. He got a lot of targets last week. They were dump-offs, but it's Daniel Jones. I also think you can start DeMarcus Robinson too. I'm also hearing some good things about a guy named Jordan Whittington. With Puka Nacua going down, I'm always looking for the next guy up. In a super deep league, he might be worth a grab. Puka was a late round grab, and Jordan Whittington, most people haven't heard of him. Could be worth a stash. I've also heard Tyler Johnson getting hyped up a little bit as the wide receiver 3 in this team. Just a couple of guys to keep on your radar. Sean McVay is very creative. On to the running back position. Running backs I love in week 2, Derrick Henry. Yes, I hear a lot of people talking smack about the king, like he has not been crowned. Derrick Henry is going to be better in games where the Baltimore Ravens are leading. They weren't leading in that game against the Kansas City Chiefs, but in most games they will be, i.e. this game against the Raiders, who suck. Derrick Henry is going to run all over them. No, he won't get 30 carries like he did in Tennessee, but he won't need 30 carries. He'll get about 20, 25 carries, about 1 or 2 touchdowns. And no, he's not going to catch the ball a bunch of times, but everybody talking about how Derrick Henry isn't going to catch the ball. Newsflash. He's caught 25 to 30 balls a year his whole career. In what world did you think he was going to come here and be Christian McCaffrey? Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox. Start Derrick Henry. Stop complaining about it. Good trade for a target. Moving on. Next up, James Conner. I think he's going to get it done on the ground and in the air. The Cardinals versus the Rams are the 4th highest over-under at 47.5. That means Vegas thinks that they're going to score some points in this one. Give me James Conner to run it back. It looks like he's going to be a pivotal part of this offense. Probably going to want to start him every week. And of course, like everyone else, I love Jordan Mason. He absolutely dominated last week. 147 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Going up against the Minnesota Vikings, does it scare you? Look for Jordan Mason to ball out this week. Again. And that 49ers blocking was fierce. I'm a fan. Get healthy soon, CMC. We need you, my boy. But I know they want you for the long haul, so I get it. Running backs I hate in week 2. Kenneth Walker III. I do not like that he's coming into this game doubtful. Number 1, doubtful doesn't sound good. So if he does play, he's not going to be 100%. Number 2, they go up against the New England Patriots, which, say what you want about the Patriots, they're a good defense. They were good last week against Cincinnati Bengals, and they're going to be good this week against the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks have to travel all the way to the Northeast, which is a pain in the butt. And there's a world where Kenneth Walker gets knocked out of this game and doesn't finish. His backup might be useful, though. Next, I hate Javonte Williams. Where do I start? Bad offense. Going up against the Steelers. Bad matchup. The lowest over-under of the week at 36.5 points. Vegas doesn't even think they're going to play well. Splitting targets with Jaleel McLaughlin. All in all, where's the upside? If you're lucky, he falls in the end zone. That's not how I like to play fantasy. Temper your expectations. Next player I hate, Zamir White. Again, back-to-back hates. Well, this is what happens when you go up against the Baltimore Ravens. Zamir White is going to be useful on weeks where they are projected to win. They are not projected to win against the Ravens. They're projected to lose by 9.5 points. That's outrageous. Zamir White is going to lose receiving work to Alexander Madison, and he's not going to get the rushing work because they're not going to lead in the game. Again, not starting him. I got a feeling this might be a trend. They're not going to lead very often. Running back sleepers for week 2. How about Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins? I actually think that both of them can be started in this matchup. J.K. Dobbins had the breakaway runs last week. I think Gus Edwards can get into the end zone. They are going to want to ground and pound in this matchup, and I just think they're both going to get involved. They're favored by 6.5, and they go up against the Carolina Panthers. Everybody knows they suck. Poor Panthers. It's going to be a rough year for y'all. Sleeper, Zach Charbonnet. For the reason I don't like Kenneth Walker, I like Zach Charbonnet a little bit, which is why he's a sleeper. Kenneth Walker is banged up. He's doubtful. So I have to worry about him getting knocked out of the game. If he does go down and Zach Charbonnet plays, I'd like to play him. Yes, it's still not a good matchup, but you're looking at Zach Charbonnet as a flex with upside, whereas you're looking at Kenneth Walker as a running back too. They could have the same amount of production. You'd be upset with Kenneth Walker, but you'd be happy with Zach Charbonnet because it came out of nowhere. Think you can fire him up. Tight ends I love and a sleeper for week 2. The people talking about Mark Andrews out the side of their mouth is getting kind of old. Bro, Mark Andrews is still one of them dudes. The Kansas City Chiefs did a fantastic job at guarding him. Bravo. But that does not mean Mark Andrews is a scrub. He has not been replaced by Isaiah Likely. I like Likely, but it's not likely that he's going to get 11 targets and 9 receptions for over 100 yards every week. You know what is likely? Mark Andrews getting a touchdown, and I think he gets one this week. I mean, I hear people talking outside of their mouth about a couple of them. Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce is another one. I hear a lot of people talking negative about Travis Kelce. Not only will Travis Kelce have a good game, not just because he's one of the best, if not the best tight ends of all time, but he hates the Cincinnati Bengals. They call it Burrowhead. He doesn't like that. He called the mayor jabroni the last time they played the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think that he's going to show up, show out, and score a touchdown because he's Travis Kelce. Watch how you talk about my man and get his name out your mouth. I know y'all were starting those two, except for Mark Andrews. I got a lot of questions about Mark Andrews. Everybody was still starting Kelce. But I think they both score touchdowns this week. Book it. And Kobe Parkinson's my sleeper. For this, I really just look for good over-under games. It's the 4th highest over-under. I think it's a back and forth affair. Matthew Stafford's going to have to sling it because that offensive line is banged up, so he's going to have to get it out quick. I think he gets it to his tight end. And Cooper Kupp, obviously. So that's loves, hates, and sleepers. Who did I get right? Who did I get wrong? And who would you have chosen? Let me know down in the comments. And a special shout out to Tua Tagovailoa. Oh man, that was a brutal thing to watch. I've seen that man seize up too many times. I will say this though, some prayers out to him and his family. I hope he gets healthy soon. I'm not one of those people that thinks he should retire. I get why people say he should retire. I have no beef with that opinion. Just for me, I'm not one to tell an athlete when they have to hang it up. That's kind of their thing. I look at athletes maybe a different way. They're like gladiators. They go in knowing this is dangerous. And I don't think I could take that away from them. If the NFL and the medical staff clears him to play, I'm rooting for him. I hope that he can live out his dream to be a starting quarterback and go far in the playoffs. I love that he got the guaranteed money because no matter what he decides now, my man is paid. My man is paid. I like that. But I also think if he does walk away, I'd be perfectly fine with that too. There's things that are bigger than football. So it can go either way for me. I just want him to be healthy regardless. Also, he's really got to work on sliding. I'm just saying. I know that situation, he was trying to get the first down, and I totally get that. But my man, that was not a brutal hit. It was not a brutal hit. And you led with the contact. I think you kind of got to stop doing that, dog. You got to slide. Whether you get the first down or not, you got to slide. I know the game wasn't going well. I know you probably had to do that to get the first down. But if you get concussions like that, bad concussions, by, I don't want to say minimal contact, but I've seen NFL players hit a lot harder than that. You got to be careful. Also, I heard some people saying he should wear that little guardian thing over his head. Absolutely. Absolutely. I am 100% for that. I personally think most of them should be wearing it for safety purposes, but definitely you. I want you healthy, my boy. But like I said before, you're a gladiator. You're the one in the ring. I don't think that I should be able to tell you whether you should play or not. I'm rooting for Tua. I really am. I'm rooting for him. Not a Dolphins fan, but I'm rooting for him. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and the notification bell down below. And I got some videos coming for you. They're going to be right here for week 2. I'll see you soon, Bay Nation. Good luck this week.